Assalamu alaikum and good evening. A very warm welcome to Friday Night Prime live on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM, online at www.salamradio.co.uk and streaming live on Facebook, Twitch and YouTube. Tonight we are having a serious and important community conversation about Green Meadow Cemetery. This is a subject that affects every family, every generation and the future needs of the Muslim community in Peterborough. When we talk about cemetery provision, we are not simply talking about land. We are talking about dignity, preparation, Islamic burial needs, community responsibility, and making sure that when families face the most difficult moments of their lives, there is suitable local provision available. Tonight, I am joined by Mohsin and Hussein to discuss why Peterborough needs future Muslim burial provision and what's happened so far with the Green Meadow Cemetery, where things currently stand, and how the community can stay informed, involved and supportive. This show is intended to build awareness, answer some questions and help people understand the seriousness of the situation. You can get involved during the show by calling 01733 602 133. Text the show 07411 191062 or comment on the live streams. Mohsin, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Friday Night Prime.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
And we are also joined in the studio by Ishfaq Hussein. So, Mohsin, I want to start right at the beginning because sometimes people only hear bits and pieces about a project and they do not always understand the bigger picture. So, why does Peterborough need future Muslim cemetery provision?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thing is, we gotta go with current time. We gotta understand what's there for us, what facilities we have. And we also got to look at our future, and we also got to look at our country. And I mentioned country because if you go into nearly all major cities, even minor cities, you'll see that the future is having our own Muslim cemetery.
Okay, so from your experience with funerals and burials, how serious is the current situation in Peterborough?
It's very, very serious, as everyone knows, that the current cemetery that we have is It really and truly, Akil, it's run out. There's no space. But they're finding provision within the cemetery. So they'll rip out some roads or they'll see some area that's not being used. So they'll accommodate us because there is no space left, really. If you look at the land, there is no piece of area or land that they can provide us a service on. So they can't. But yeah, they're finding bits and bobs within the cemetery, like I said earlier. They've ripped out a few roads. The current place that we're in at the moment, that there was a road there, so that's all been ripped out, and now it's all completed. Now the next bit that we're going to go to again, is going to be full before you know it. So yeah.
Okay, so that begs the question: how close are we to existing burial provision becoming full or no longer being enough for the community?
Okay. Can I come in there?
Of course you can.
So on your first part of the question, look. To give you an example, when I first became a councillor and got involved in politics, say 8-9 years ago, there was a concern then about provision for the graveyard and how much space was left. At the time we were told that there was a number of years, up to 10-15 years left at that time. Then 5-6 years ago we had COVID, and there was a real emergency at the time because there was a concern. And I want to remind people that at that time, if you looked at places like Italy, Spain, European countries, there was a lockdown, so you couldn't travel. And they were saying that because there was no understanding of the disease or how it was spreading in the early 6 months while they were investigating or trying to research, they were cremating bodies. Cremation goes against our beliefs in a massive way, okay? So because of that, and our final rights would be denied, our final rights and all of that stuff. And more important to us as a Muslim is the afterlife and death. So those people were trapped in those countries. They couldn't leave. They couldn't go to a Muslim country or back home, wherever they came from, say. And the risk was that if they died with COVID, they would be cremated. At that time, I remember speaking to the then MP, Paul Bristow, who was a friend, and I brought this up with him, and I said to him, we cannot have cremation. Regardless of what's going on, I understand the emergency and the impact of COVID, but as Muslims, it goes against our basic beliefs that we be cremated. And if that happens, it's going to cause an uproar. So you've got to do what you've got to do. And he went to Parliament, and there was a talk on it that day because it was a COVID cabinet meeting or something. And he called me at the time and he said, look, we've first time ever, as an emergency thing, I've put this forward, and with other MPs as well, Muslim MPs, they've changed that rule so that Muslim burials will continue. But then the risk was we didn't know how many were going to die. And there was a lot of death during COVID, right? So that old part of the cemetery got filled up within that time very quickly, to the point that we had a meeting with council officers, and we said, and this was during COVID, and we said, look, that area is becoming full. What's the next step? Because at the moment, for all you know, we could have there's 25,000 Muslims in Peterborough, say, surrounding areas, when you include them, maybe 40,000. Depending on the numbers and the percentage, this isn't going to be adequate. What are you going to do? And at that time, if you know the cemetery now, the central part so that was established during COVID. And I went there with Haji Zaid at the time, ex-accountant who passed away, God bless his soul. We visited that site together, not knowing that he would be one of those people that would be buried there, right? So that was allocated to us, and we were told at that time there's provision for around 300 graves there, and it would be sufficient. That is already full. Then, as Mohsin said, the central bit now, that's full. So 2-3 weeks ago we had a meeting. So at the back end of the cemetery, where the old Muslim graveyard area section was, if you look to the right, if you're looking away from the road, back towards the cemetery, in the right hand side at the back there's what do they call that building? Mausoleum, yeah. So along that stretch there was a road, and they were saying, look, we could do the burials here. But we had to have this meeting because of the direction. So because of the direction that we need to face, there was going to be Qibla, to face the Qibla. Either they could have done it straight, and it would have been a little bit out of sync, and we wouldn't be facing the Qibla. We had Azarvi Saab there as well. Yeah, and it was really important. And he said, look, it's important that, obviously, and I said at the time as well, I might die one day. If I'm buried, I want to make sure I'm facing the Qibla. So it's important that regardless of spaces, although we're going to lose spaces, it's important that we face the Qibla. So we had to do it in that direction. And the officers did, they conceded to that, and they were very forthcoming and helpful. So not knocking the council on that. They do have statutory duty. And this is the argument some people say, well, the council have a statutory duty to provide graveyards. The fact is, at the moment, the council haven't found a place going forward. So although there's provision within the graveyard, that may be for another 2-3 years, but if there's another COVID, it might only be for 6 months, might only be for a year. We don't know. So that's the importance of why there's a need for a graveyard. The other reason, sorry Akil, to come into it, is at the moment the burials, the cost of burial compared to cremation means that a lot of people now from other denominations choose to cremate. Okay, so their side of burial has reduced. The Catholics and the Gypsy diaspora do still bury. Muslims bury. The Jewish community bury. But that means that there's still a demand. Our population is also growing, so that demand is also increasing as well. Hence why we need an allocation and a guarantee that there's a place. Apart from that, going forward, to give you an example, with what's going on in the city centre at the moment, there were some graves found, which was an old graveyard under Queen's Gate, and at the roundabout there's some graves found, right? So what we don't want to see is in 100 years that our graves are built over or dug up or whatever, which, when our 100, 200 years down the road, there's no guarantee, because we leased that land from the council, okay, for 100 years. After 100 years, we've got no right to say what happens to that grave plot being a fact, because we've signed a 100-year lease. So having your own graveyard with people administering it or as a trust ensures that they are kept in the way that they should be, and that they face the Qibla, and that those rituals or Islamic rights that you have to follow are maintained. I'm not saying that the council don't allow that to happen, but there's also, if you look at other cities like Mohsin was mentioning, like Luton, Manchester, Cambridge, Bedford, smaller cities than us, they do have allocated graveyards. Okay, now this isn't saying that we're trying to be separate or different. I was born in this country. We've always said we've integrated, we're part of it. The idea is that we have a Muslim section, which we have in this graveyard as well. But I think that there'll be sections for others as well if they want. So it's not just, it's a Muslim graveyard, but it's got that same, element as well. Okay. So that's the importance of it.
I think this is the part people need to reflect on then. A cemetery is not something that we can wait until the last minute to think about. By the time provision runs out, as Ishfaq is articulating, it is already too late to start planning. This is about preparation. It's about dignity. It's about making sure the Muslim community has suitable provision for Islamic burial needs, not just today, but for the future as well, as Ishfaq's mentioned there. So I turn to you, Mohsin. The Green Meadow Cemetery, the journey so far, can you take us back to the beginning and explain how the idea of the Green Meadow Cemetery came about?
Yeah. So being in the funeral industry since 2008, seeing the rapid change over the years, and seeing that how our cemetery is getting full. In 2018 is when I start looking into a possible way of finding some sort of land or getting something moving on for our own needs, as in our own Muslim community needs, privately run. I did speak to the council at the time and I asked them, what would be the next steps, but it wasn't intrusive. It was just like a simple conversation. But moving forward, we started our search through the help of a great brother who most of us know. It's Shahid Latif from Bedford. He's the one who kind of put together their project in Bedford. Approaching him, he said, look, this is how we done it and this is what you got to do. So, we looked at quite a few sites. That's where it kind of started from, looking at the provision that we've got left. And thinking at least 5 to 6 years in advance. Okay,
how difficult is it to find suitable land for a cemetery?
Oof, very.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 2018 when I started, we're in 26.
The council.
Wow. Okay. So for someone who's listening to the show, watching the show right now, who doesn't know, what makes land suitable or unsuitable for burial provision?
Okay, so before I answer that, I'll give you a little example of Gardens of Peace. Gardens of Peace Cemetery in Ilford is the most well-known cemetery in the country. They're on the third site.
For Muslims?
For Muslims. Yeah. I think they do provide for non-Muslims as well, but they have a separate section. And they're on the third site now, Akil. But the third site took them 10 years.
10 years?
To get the application through, to get permission. So you can imagine where this sort of project, where it can go, which way it can go. It all depends on the location. We've seen so many locations, Akil, and we've spent a lot of money and time and effort, but then it was a showstopper, one thing or another, and we had to move forward. But we carried on. You asked the question, what are the reasons?
No, I asked you what makes land suitable or unsuitable for burial.
Oh, okay, great. So one of the things is water tables, the biggest issue I would think. Yeah, the water table is got to be, it's got to work according to burials, and there's so many stats to that. We're not going to get into all of that, but that's number one. Yeah, we've got to make sure that the water table is further down.
Just to bring it in, so Eastfield Road Cemetery has a high water table. So again, we had issues at Eastfield where they were having to put sawdust down because the water table is so high there. By the time you go down to 1.5 meters, water was seeping in. Now, many people approached me at the time saying, look guys, you need to find a suitable place because we're burying our people, our family, in waterlogged graves, and that's not a good feeling. When you dig up a hole and it's full of water, and then you've got to put your loved one into that and know that they're going to be spending eternity or a very long time in a waterlogged grave. That's one of the reasons.
Just knowing that fact, there's water when you open a grave, that alone should kind of wake us up and think that, look, we should do something about this.
Also, you mentioned about difficulty in finding sites. To give you an example, when we first spoke to the council, and Mohsin did 8-9 years ago as well, as part of the local plan, it has been that the council are looking for a site as well, okay? But it costs a lot of money. Now, Mohsin can tell you himself that they might have looked at 5 or 10 sites. The council know where sites are, but then by the time you do the analysis, the studies, the research, it's not just about digging the site.
Non-invasive.
There's so much you have to do research into finding out. You can find a perfect plot of land that is in between meadows and it looks like heaven, right? But it might have a high water table, it might have newts on it, it might have a certain type of bat on it, it might have a certain type of wildlife or a wild flower on it, which won't allow you to use that site. It might be that there's clay.
Yeah, clay. Peat soil was one of the sites that we looked at near Oxney Road, and that site, Akil, was such a good site because I liked it because the landscape of it was so great.
Yeah.
And it's not so far. The location was good because it's just further up from the existing cemetery, Oxney Road. So it's not far at all. It's just after Sainsbury's. The problem with that was the soil. It was peat soil. So those of you who know what peat soil is all about, so it was a showstopper. And that was really sad because, you know, good location, good landscape, good road towards it, you know, in a remote area, tucked away. You know, you had the privacy, so I was really, really hopeful for that area, that land, but it didn't go ahead. We had to move forward. We had to get onto another site. So that's a second reason why what we need it to be suitable. And then you got to look at other things like the archaeology. And we spoke about this yesterday, me and Ishfaq. We were talking about this, that if any of the archaeology in any site or any soil is a showstopper, you know, you can't proceed. Then you got to look at sites that are not what do you call it, backfilled. You call it something. What do you call it again? It's when you backfill it with waste. Quarry, that's it. So sites that are quarried, you're not allowed to bury there either. So we had a site, 50 acres on a very good price, obviously because it was quarried. But we did quite a lot of works on it until, you know, we got to the EA, you know,
the Environment Agency.
Yeah. And that was so that's another reason why these showstoppers will always be there. Then another thing you got to look at is limestone. Now we know this country holds, or especially our area where we live, the Fenlands, it holds a lot of limestone. So if you got limestone 1.5 meters in the ground, ain't gonna happen. But you won't know it, Akil, until you do the invasive
then you've got
digs.
Water runoff, you've got, like I said, you know, what sort of trees are there, what sort of plants are there, then what sort of neighbours are there. There's so much stuff.
Even bird life, wildlife, you know.
So it's difficult to find the perfect spot. And Mohsin can tell you that they probably looked at 10 or 12 before this site, doing studies, paying for ecological studies, cost money, thousands.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason the council, and I can tell you this now because it was in the cabinet as well, the council are spending £100,000 to look for a site. I asked the director of that service just in a meeting last week, is that £100,000 going to be enough? Because if for some reason, like one of these points we've just raised, comes up in one of those sites that you've selected, it start again. So then you've got to look for another site, do all those same studies again, and you could get through 15 of those studies, you know, do the trench digging, do a number of trenches, archaeological digs, and then all of a sudden, the last thing you find, someone spots a certain animal there, and they go, well, no, that's a habitat. All of a sudden, all that
badgers
goes to waste, and you've gone back to square one.
Okay, so this is important because, you know, people may not or may look at a cemetery project and think it's simply about finding a piece of land. But what you are explaining is that it's much more complicated than that. There are planning processes, professional reports, land checks, access issues, environmental matters, community needs,
residents, villages,
council engagement and long-term management considerations. So the journey is not simple, is what we're saying, and it cannot happen overnight. Some people may have heard different things about Green Meadow Cemetery, Mohsin. Can you explain clearly what this project is intended to be?
So I think it's very loud and clear. It's always a charity. It's always going to be the community's I started this project with only a few brothers, and the whole intention right from day one until now, and inshallah forever, is going to be that we get this past the line. It's for the community. It's the community are more than welcome to come on board. If they can bring any of their expertise on the table, bismillah, they can come run it how you want. I'm more than happy to hand it over to another team if they feel that they can get this past the line. The
idea would be, and we've discussed the best way and the best platform and how to do this, because unfortunately, as much as there's a need, there's always going to be naysayers. Okay, and the issue comes there because they will look at what your intention is. Now, my intention is that one day I need to be buried.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my intention.
Yeah.
That one day my family, I would like them to be buried somewhere close by as well, or it's easy for us. Because there's a need, and because, like I said at the start, if there's another thing or another pandemic, I need to make sure that there's provision for the community. Because as a counsellor, people will look to us and ask me the question, what did you do for it? Absolutely. And I can tell you for the last 8 years, I've been working and talking and speaking and trying to action this through the council. And funnily enough, the way we found out was... was it a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, something? I was working on a cemetery project to try and get something off the ground for the community. I was talking to the same company that Mohsin was talking to as the agents.
Consultant company.
The consultants. As it went on, me and Mohsin were having a conversation, and this company's name came up, and it was like, hold on, why are you talking to them? Why are you talking to them? And it turned out that we were both trying to achieve or in the same goal. So we said, look, it's really important that this is done. We're going to combine the energy and do what needs to be done. And alhamdulillah, Mohsin's been the driving force. Now, the thing is, people will say, oh, it's a business. I've had people say to me, oh, it's a business. Hold on, it's not business. Would you pay the council? At the moment, it's somewhere near £7,000. Another question that I've asked the council, why is it so much compared to some of our neighbours? We're not in control of that, okay? So if we have a cemetery where there's a trust, now the neighbours, we had meetings with the neighbours from the villages.
Yep.
We've even said to them, look, you're welcome to come on board as part of the trust to ensure that you're happy, because as Muslims we've got a duty to everyone, especially the neighbours, right? Regardless of what their background is.
Yes.
Now, we don't want to forget those duties as a Muslim just for the purpose of achieving something. So we said, look, you're welcome to come along,
we did,
on board,
we offered them.
Sit on this trust, and you know what, in the future they probably will. So people from the community who are genuine about seeing this being successful and helping to manage it in the right way, fair enough, because look, I've got no financial gain from this. I can tell you now, he's got no financial gain from this. So this is about making sure there's provision for our community.
On that note, look, even if it was, there's nothing wrong with me having any financial gain. But if it was, then I would say out loud, it is. But there's still nothing wrong with that, because I can run it as a business. Yeah. Just like the council's running a business as business.
As like you run your funeral.
As the way, exactly how I do the funeral service. Started in 2008 with intention. It's going to run as a business. It was out loud and clear to everyone that it's going to be running as a business. And I can actually go and run this cemetery as a business. I'll go and purchase the land. I'll get it all up and running. We'll get it all funded, and then whoever chooses to come to the cemetery, which is going to be provided with all services, all services, but for the start there'll be a gradual start. But the point that I'm making is that, but I'm not going down that route, Akil. I choose not to go down that route. I choose to, let's make this for the community. It's a sadaqah jariyah for me, for us, for all the team. And then we hand it over to someone who thinks or feels that they can run this cemetery better. If they feel that, bismillah, we're not stopping nobody. If any mosques or any organizations or anyone out there feel like that they want to come and join us on this project, bismillah, you can come forward. Or if there is any organization out there who want to take over from this point, bismillah, you can do that as well. It's not mine, it's never mine. I even said in a meeting in the masjid, I know we've only got 1 minute and 20 seconds or so, I did say this in the masjid a few weeks ago when we had a meeting, just a few of us. I said out loud that, look, the only thing well, not the only, 2 things I ask for in return. What I ask for. Number 1 is that give me at least one small job, even as a cleaner at the cemetery. I'm happy with that, you know. And the second thing is keep me in the background if you need me. If you need my help or my expertise, Bismillah, I'm here for you. Otherwise, you can run it.
Akil's good on a ride-on lawnmower.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Look, he's got the headphones, the T-shirt.
I think we all are.
I think she's
It's fun.
spot on. He's spot on. So yeah, look, so you want to be a cleaner. I'll be the ride-on lawnmower guy.
Yeah.
And you'll be the guy telling us what to do.
Yeah.
I'll be the
So in simple, I'm telling you, I'm your labourer. Use me, utilize me.
If
You
she
know,
just said
I'm
he'd
not.
be
I'm
the
not.
gatekeeper.
Akil, I'm not the director. I don't want the seat. Give the seat to someone else. I don't want it. I'm not interested. You know, I just feel like collectively, all of us together, let's get the cemetery done. So
Yeah, we've already reached the first ad break, so we'll pick this back up after a short ad break. You're listening to Friday Night Prime Live on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Mirage Wedding and Catering Services have everything to make your special day, party or celebration one to remember for all the right reasons. As well as quality catering, freshly made with seasonal produce, Mirage supply stages, lighting and house lights, decor and marquees, Chivari chairs and table hire, attentive staff, supercars and so much more. Call 07860 125 092 or visit MirageWeddingsUK.com. Also across all social media. Mirage, making every wedding better.
What do children at Bright Bambini Montessori Nursery say about us?
I love my teachers and friends.
At Bright Bambini Montessori, we sprinkle confidence, independence, and stir the love of learning. From 18 months to 5 years, free funded places available.
Come join in the fun.
Call Bright Bambini Montessori on Peterborough 306565 or visit bbmc.uk.
At Master's Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Master's Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Whether you're eating in or ordering for collection or delivery, Big Mouth at 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough is the place for all the family favourites you know and love. But now it's even better, as loaded fries, grilled and smashed burgers, peri-peri strips and wings have been added to Big Mouth's mouth-watering menu of pizzas, chicken and so much more. Call in today, order for delivery via Uber Eats or call 01733 201020. Big Mouth's open 11 till 2, 7 days a week.
Already running a business but want to scale, boost profits, and free up more time for the things you love? The Progressive Business Network is where business owners, mentors, investors, and keynote speakers share real-world strategies for growth. Each month you'll gain practical advice, fresh ideas, and powerful connections to help you work smarter, not harder. Grow your profits, grow your network, grow your freedom. Join the Progressive Business Network. Visit progressivebusinessnetwork.co.uk today. Progressive Business Network. Learn, connect, scale.
Peterborough's community radio station, Salaam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Welcome back to Friday Night Prime. I'm joined in the studio with Mohsin and Ishfaq to talk about the Green Meadow Cemetery and the journey so far. Just before the break, they were sharing some of the misconceptions about the cemetery and some of the comments and feedback that they've had from the community, and they've clarified that this is a community-wide project. It's not a business of any sort. Mohsin, for anyone who doesn't know, and they're just tuning into this right now, and they've seen how many people have passed away in Peterborough so far this year. There's been a lot. Should they be seriously concerned that by the end of this year, potentially, that this graveyard may be full? Are we there? How close are we to being full?
I would say, from my understanding, I would say 2 to 3 years. But that isn't the point, because even if there was longer time, regardless, we said something right from the start and we stick to it, and that is that we need our own Muslim provision. Cemetery where we are, the organisers, where we are in charge.
Let me come in there a little bit, Akil, just to explain to you the importance and why. We talked about facing the Qibla earlier and the importance, and how in the new section we had a meeting there and worked with officers to ensure that the new graves would face the Qibla, okay, which is important to us, right? And I'm sure the listeners would agree that it's important to them too. So if I told you that because of the layout of the current cemetery, there'll be some graves that don't face the Qibla, or we've tried, or the Muslim directors have had to try their best to make sure that that body faces the Qibla as much as it can, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But there could be a little bit of error. Do you agree, Mohsin? Okay, not because of the Muslim directors doing, but because of the way the graves are set. Now, there's a fixed space that you can allocate graves into, that the council would do, and they try their best to make them angle in a certain direction. But I can tell you that if I went there, I can tell you now there'll be graves that don't. Okay?
In the Muslim area?
In the Muslim area, okay? So what's important there? So if that was a Muslim graveyard, administered in that way, then there would be.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the first part. The second part is, look, one, we're a growing generation, a growing population, a growing diaspora. Years ago, if someone passed away, there was a lot of families, say in Pakistan and Kashmir, and they would want to send the body back there because, I remember elders from my family being taken back to Pakistan and being buried there, okay, because they wanted to be buried next to their parents or their brothers and sisters or their family. That doesn't happen anymore, right? 1 in 100, I would say, Mohsin. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't think of many funerals in the last few years where the body's been taken to Pakistan or Kashmir or any other country.
Yeah.
They're always buried here because guess what? My kids are here, my parents are here. I've got my grandparents are buried in the cemetery here, okay? So why would I want to be shipped over to Pakistan when I was born here?
Yeah.
And so as we've gone on, that demand on burial spaces has increased, and it's only going to increase, yeah? So that's where the need comes from.
Okay.
The next step then is, how do we fulfill that? Now, I mentioned in the first part of the show about the council having a statutory duty, but then also we have to fit in to a certain model or a certain space or a certain allocation, yeah? If it's administered by ourselves, managed by ourselves, we can do it in a better way, I believe. The other thing is, in other cities, I touched on it earlier on Shabrat, some people want to go to the graveyard like they do in Muslim countries and do dua and pray and be there most of the day or night, once a year. We're not able to do that, yeah? But if it's administered by a trust, we should be able to do that, hopefully, planning and reasons allowing.
Okay, let's talking about planning then. Mohsin, a lot has happened. So can you just give us a brief overview of what's happened in the planning position and the current stage?
Yeah, last year we completed our application and we did submit it in, as most of people know, but then it was deferred by the opposition or the council. Then we had to come back into the drawing board and evaluate a lot of things, make a lot of changes. and we done that. Now that's all completed or nearly completed. We needed a bit more time to make these changes, and we did. We spent a lot of money even making these changes. A lot of efforts have gone into it. Time is the biggest, because we have to hold tight. Our hands are tied at times when certain things are happening behind the scenes, which they have been, like, full throttle. Now we're in a better position, and inshallah, by the end of August, our new application will be going in.
Okay, but can you give us a little bit more information about it? So obviously you're saying the application was rejected.
It wasn't rejected.
No, it wasn't rejected. Sorry, you were essentially you had to. Did you withdraw yourself?
No, it was deferred. So basically, the opposition, they had some other elements that came into it. So the council actually stopped the meeting. You can say the actual council, the panel withdrew it.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
And so you've made all of the necessary changes. And could you share approximately how much money has already been spent to date?
Just over £250,000.
£250,000. Over £250,000 to find a site. Then you found a site. You've put in an application. Then you
£80,000 Akil was just archaeology checks.
That's a staggering.
Just alone, we're talking about.
That takes into account what Ishfaq was saying
So,
about the £100,000.
£5,500. Sorry, ecologists.
You find the site, you do all these studies, you put it forward. Then the council will say, well, actually, we need a study on this. Okay, as part of it, we'll need an archaeological study to make sure there's no archaeological significance in that site, which there wasn't. Very rarely does that happen, but there wasn't. Then the ecological plant life, all of that comes into it. Water table comes into it. And how many trenches did you dig there?
We originally done 13 pits just to check the water level. That was in 2021. But then in 2022, we done the archaeology digs, and that was 61 digs. And each dig was 10 meters long by 2 meters wide by 2 foot deep. 61 of them. And it was over a period of 4 weeks where they had to check.
Wow.
We also had a public consultation with the neighbouring villages, to get their opinions. Some were for, some were against, some, there was concerns. But then there was also something raised about the entrance, the road.
Yeah,
so,
we changed the entrance then.
Could have left it, would have been ideal, left it where it was. But listening to the neighbours, as I said, as Muslims, we want to keep the neighbours happy. At a cost, that design was
huge
changed.
Cost. Yeah.
And the entrance was moved, which was, I think, in the long term, it's more suitable, which then highways accepted. So it's not just one department planning and then, you're there. You've got all the different sections of the council that have to agree to it and accept it.
The visual impact.
All of that, there was a building that was going to be put up, which was going to be a small
maintenance building. It was going to be admin.
Which, would have been okay. But that's been withdrawn, just to keep the neighbours happy. So, there's a lot of give and take to make sure it goes through and it's accepted.
Okay, that's really good to know, of course, and obviously it's put you in a position where you're going to be resubmitting this application at some point. There's been some text messages that have come in. The theme that I'm getting from a lot of these text messages, which is there's not been any proactive information about Green Meadow Cemetery to the community for a period of time. Why is that?
So,
can I say something?
You say
We've
something,
had meetings
then I'll say
about
as well.
this. So there's been talks in mosques, certain meetings. There's been initial consultation.
The original one,
initial consultation meeting, say at the launch of the project. Recently, the reason there's not been, because there's so much work going on in the background. Okay, in our community, there's always stories and stuff going around and naysayers, and all of that impacts the project. So I said to Mohsin at the time, I said, look, you need to get to a stage where there's no point talking about it if the land isn't suitable. There's no point talking about it if you find out, well, actually, we've said to everyone that this is the land, but all of a sudden the archaeological report has said that you can't have this. So let's get past all of that. Then the final hurdle is the planning stage, right? Once that's accepted, then there's something to talk about.
Something tangible.
Until then, we're blowing hot air, to be honest. Right?
Okay, so what we're saying is that if you're listening right now, essentially what the brothers are saying is to understand that the project has not disappeared and it has not ended, the approach has had to change, and the team has had to look carefully at the concerns raised and responded to them, and consider a more focused way forward, like Ishfaq is saying. So this is part of any serious project. Sometimes you have to pause, review, adjust, and come back
and
stronger.
these are the reasons why, because we have to keep stopping. There was hurdles in the way, Akil, where we had to...
Would you say it's made your team stronger?
Oh yeah, huge. We got to know a lot more. We understood the whole dynamics of it. We did think that we did expect 5 years, but it's gone a lot over than 5 years overall, because if from the point we started 2018, we're in 26 now. You can imagine why this time is, because there's a lot more going on behind the scene. We're up against some real work.
Okay.
It's a cemetery that we're talking about. And then I spoke about Guardians of Peace earlier on.
Yeah.
It's taken them 10 years for their third site, and they're the most recognised cemetery in the country.
Okay, let's move on to the support that you need from the community. Okay, so apart from the financial support, what does the project need from the community?
We asked the community to support us, especially in time of the application when it gets submitted.
Okay.
Last time we submitted it, and we put out a message, loads of messages out there. We advertised it really, really well, where we asked everyone to put like a petition, or a signing where they're for it, and I'm sure all Muslims will be for it. We didn't get a great response, so that was a bit of a heartful thing to feel. But other than that, what we want from them now going forward is their support in terms of recognizing the need of this cemetery, being there for us with good positive talks, supporting it in the sense of the finances, if you can, especially going forward, when the application goes in, be there. Be there in numbers. It will make.
Am I right? Sorry, Ishfaq. Am I right in thinking if somebody was to donate to this project, it would be Sadaqah Jariyah?
Of course, 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Ishfaq, you could say.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So when the planning application goes in the last application, there was some people, as I mentioned, from neighbouring villages who were against the idea and put comments on the planning portal on the council website. So that all plays into whether, when we're looking at a planning committee, councillors look at those comments, or the number of comments, positive, negative. So it'd be good for the community to get behind, and hopefully you can promote on Islam Radio as well, to tell people when it goes live. It'll be on social media, there'll be links shared. If they can go on there, look, it's for akhirat at the end of the day. You know, if someone can tell me that they're going to live forever, then please tell me what that is, because I'm sure that's not the case.
So you're saying proactive engagement is now required?
Proactive engagement, but proactive also when the planning application goes in. It is a must that people put on there, go on the portal, log in, and put positive comments about and show the council that there is a need for this graveyard. Because look, if you don't, I've had people over the years stop me, call, tell me. There won't be a week where someone hasn't stopped me and said to me, there's a need for a graveyard. There's a need for a graveyard. What are you guys doing about it? And I'm saying to those people now, you've been hounding us for years on end, saying, come on, do something. And although we've not been making noise about it, I'm not one of these people that like stand on a platform and make noise about something. I'd rather just get it done. Hence why we've not been making noise about it.
That's right,
We've wanted to get it done to a stage where then we could say to people, right, it's there now. Here's a planning application. It's in. It's approved.
That'll be the noise.
How would you like to now proceed? How should we do the governance? How should we get the community involved to make sure that everyone's happy and it's running the right way? And it's, but the first step of all of that is the foundation. Is getting the application.
I got asked this question that, why haven't we been informed on a regular, although it has been not completely regular, but we have been kind of sending out messages on some updates. And then someone asked, what's happening with the funding? Why is it that, no one has in this community have been approached in regards to funding. You know, if you're struggling, then, you know, why haven't you approached us? And this is the same reason. It's the same answer what Ishi just said. You know, we can't, you know, give you an update on something on a regular that we don't know of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, there's changes that are being made rapidly. You know, one minute an application is saying something else, and another minute a department has now turned their decision from one thing to the other. Then you've got the council asking for more time. Then you got like a contractor who was supposed to be coming on this date to do one specific check, but he's coming in 2 months' time. So, you know, we've been put behind, so we're just holding on, we're holding fire, we're sticking together, looking into all the nitty-gritty bits, working behind the scene, seeing that let's get this past the line. Once this past the line, then Bismillah.
Okay.
The word will be out loud and clear.
What kind of skills would be useful? For example, social media marketing, professional advice, planning, you know, fundraising.
We've had people come forward, local builders from within the community, who said, look, we're going to, Mohsin was mentioning this the other day, that they're going to do certain stuff when it comes to the building or groundworks or planting. Neighbours from neighbouring villages I mentioned as well, they want to be part of some of the planting. And we've said to them, look, you're more than welcome. Because it's boundaries with certain properties, please do come along. You're welcome to plant trees in certain areas, because there's going to be green areas and walk areas and all of that kind of stuff. You know, to make it nice for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So, believe it or not, it is a community project. It will be led and, you know, run by the community. You know, in effect, right?
Yeah.
And there's certain things and certain parameters which we want to meet and make sure that it's something that people can enjoy, in the sense of when they go there, it does feel peaceful.
Yeah.
It does feel uniform. Okay, not just for the neighbours, but for the people that go in there. You know, I've had this idea. I said to them, look, we don't need to have massive big, Islamically we're not supposed to anyway, but have massive big, everyone's competing on with the size of the headstone or the surrounds or this, that. No. You know, we're going to make it, it's about going there, dua mongol, you know, pray.
You know, a good vision to have on this, you know, on this exact point that Ishi is making, is that those who are listening right now, just punch it into YouTube, Gardens of Peace Cemetery. If you see the blueprint of that, that is what we want to achieve, or even closer to that, because you've got all the necessities, all the services that we as Muslims need. They cover it all. So if you look at that, and then you'll have a vision in your mind. Gardens of Peace, Gardens of Peace Cemetery, Ilford. They're on their third site. Someone asked me a question about what happens when the site is completed. What are Gardens of Peace doing about this? We follow the blueprint. They're on the third site. Surely someone's maintaining the site 1, site 2. So we take advice from them, and all this is going to be bought out and completely transparent. We're going to give this information out when the time is right. At the moment, we're on stage 10. You can say we need to get to stage 50. You know, let's step by step. And if anyone's got any questions, they can always contact us. You know.
So the key message tonight is, of course, it's awareness. So with that in mind, Mohsin, can you share what it is you may be doing, working on to generate more awareness for the project?
Yeah, so I don't know if many people have heard of this very famous undertaker of Australia. Inshallah, he'll be coming to enlighten us end of August. The date will be publicised soon.
What's his name?
His name is Ahmed Harachi.
Isn't that
Haraki,
that Aussie Mammoth?
No.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
No. So this man, or probably is, I've never heard of that name, but I don't think he is. You could YouTube that. But he is very, very well known and very famous, mashallah, for what he does, for what he's doing and does. I can't see him either.
Okay, wait. Let me
just zoom into that.
Wait a second. So if you're obviously people listening at home, I've just Googled who I think it is.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
is that what you call him? I just named him by his name.
Yeah, of course.
And he's on he's on a UK tour in August. And alhamdulillah,
he's widely known on social media as the Muslim Undertaker.
Yeah.
He's a former professional bodybuilder, hence why he's called Aussie Mammoth. But on his actual name is Ahmed Hirachi. You're absolutely right.
Can you ask him to bring that other guy along as well? The other imam, you know, the one that does all the talks and goes a little bit it.
Zaid something his name is, I think.
Do you know which one I mean?
Oh no, you're thinking about Hoblos.
Oh, Hoblos. Oof.
He goes a little bit.
Now we're
Okay, so
totally
wait,
different
okay,
dynamic.
so there's a bit of research going live on air, but we'll just go back a little bit a second.
Yeah, so
the date is to be confirmed, but you're going to have Aussie Mammoth, aka Ahmed Harachi, coming to Peterborough,
Inshallah,
which is the Muslim undertaking. You can see him all over social media, and he's going to be. So this is an event to raise awareness.
Yeah, just awareness. He's going to talk about end of life, death, bereavement, cemeteries, burials. He will be covering all this, and this is what he does best.
Last rites.
Last rites, absolutely. So, inshallah, the event is going to take place end of August. We're just, touching upon a few bits. Once they're completed, we've got the booking done and everything. We have got him booked for Peterborough. We just need to sort out the bits and bobs.
So some logistics are yet to be confirmed. Okay. Ishfaq, how important are events like this in building awareness and bringing people together?
I think it's not just awareness, it's also about education. There's a growing need, although we get a lot of information from social media and stuff like that, but we need education when it comes to we were just talking about last rites. My kids, I can tell you now, hand on heart, that if I told them what they would need to do if I passed away, they wouldn't have a clue. And there's so many like that.
Yeah.
And as a parent, it's my duty to ensure that they do know, So that's one of the reasons, education. And the other one is, yes, it brings people together, it shows what the need is, and it'll also show the community that although we're, at the moment, we die, we call the undertakers, they deal with whatever they need to deal with, we go to the mosque, funeral happens, we get buried in Eastfield Road, end of story, and we come back home, sit at the mosque for 3 days, and it's all over. There's more to it than that.
Definitely. I just thought actually that I think it's Children of Adam, isn't it? They do these events where they talk about and teach you about death and how you prepare the body. I think Mohsin's done some of these in mosques as well. But you're right, there's not enough of them. So there's a detachment. We only think about death when someone's actually died.
Yeah.
Really, you go about your daily life, you're not thinking about where you're going to get buried and so on. But this is a legitimate, serious concern which is rapidly becoming a reality. Cards on the table, gents. I'm saying this right at the end of the show. I've been cleaning with my team Eastfield Cemetery for nearly 5 years. Just go there, clean graves. I've got aerial footage and images of that graveyard since 2021. So when both of you were talking about COVID, I've got a visual of all of these graveyards and these grave plots all being filled, and it is staggering how quickly it's happened. And I can tell you, that section that was carved out for COVID, do you remember? And in 2021 there was only one line half of the first line had gone in. I remember we'd walk from the old area and go all the way across that way and come down and make the dua, and I used to stand there and I'd try and count how many graves are going to go in. Right, there's pictures of us where there's barely any graves there. When you go there now, and I still stand there and I think to myself, this got filled so quickly.
It was like a blink of an eye.
And then moreover, the new plot of land where there was just a line, and now you look at it, the van is basically stopping on the road almost now.
Can't come in.
Again, so it's certainly something that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, just rapidly.
The other thing, just quickly, I know we're touching on, at the moment, we used to have a choice where we could have the allocated grave next door for loved ones.
Yeah.
No family sections. People don't know where they're going to go, right? So it's just 1, 2. You can't do that anymore. And there's people that wanted that but can't have it because of the allocation. Okay. Here, under a Muslim graveyard cemetery, you can have probably family sections.
Inshallah, we're going to be introducing
How is
them.
it at the moment? You go to one area of the grave, then you've got to go visit your grandmother's grave, you've got to go right to the other end, then you've got to go to your brother's grave, but guess what, that's in the other corner.
You've
done the marathon before you
it's true.
left.
And that is actually happening here in Peterborough already. So
there
you've
you
got
go.
somebody, you'll have a child that's buried at the beginning, and you go further up, there's another child because you have them at the beginning, you've got the roundabout, then you go all the way up, then you've got a loved one that's in the old section, there's another old one in another part of the section, then everyone who's passed away recently goes into the new other section, and then someone else has passed away. You're right. You're literally doing a huge lap.
That's one of the big benefits of having this cemetery.
We've only got a few minutes left, and that time went real quick, but I just want to add that Bedford being a small community, as in Muslim, small Muslim community, and Cambridge being even more smaller, mashallah, tabarakallah, they've got their land sorted and their cemeteries are up and running. And it's a little bit shameful that we, as a huge community, we delayed it to this much, and because we're depending completely and solely on the council. It's good to depend on them in certain aspects, but here we do need to kind of feel we need to get together, all of us. We need to get together as brothers, and and we need to decide that, look, this is what we want to do collectively. And this is what my last message is. Come forward, let's work together.
Thank you, Mohsin. So that brings us towards the end of tonight's Friday Night Prime. A heartfelt thank you to my guests Mohsin, Hussein and Ishfaq for joining us and helping explain the Green Meadow Cemetery project. Tonight we've discussed why Peterborough needs future Muslim burial provision, why this issue is urgent, what has happened so far, the planning position, and how the community can stay informed, involved and supportive. The key message here is clear. This is about dignity, this is about preparation, it's about Islamic burial needs, it's about planning for the future, and it's about making sure the community understands the importance of Green Meadow Cemetery before it becomes too late to act. And may Allah grant ease to the families in the most difficult moments, bless those working for the benefit of the community, and guide us to make decisions that serve future generations.